Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another episode of the Most Offensive Podcast. I'm your host, Slimmy V, and today I am going to be tackling Breonnataylor. Yes, that's the young lady who was shot in her bedroom, according to a lot of media outlets. The way I'm going to tackle this story is going to be in a non-partisan way. I don't care for the right wing's story. I don't care for the left wing's story. I think let's do her story some justice, okay? It is a learning experience, and I'm going to pick the story apart and kind of give it a teaching moment, which is what many just was not doing, okay? Everyone that told this Breonnataylor story, they had an agenda, okay? So now, let's start. Breonnataylor was said to have been sleeping in bed. She has nothing to do with this, and she was shot by police officers, and there was racial tensions behind it. If you examine the story in its entirety, you would understand that Breonnataylor did not deserve to die. But was she completely guilty? She was not completely guilty. She was also complicit in what was going on because she was knowingly dating a drug dealer. Okay? Let's get that straight. Was she completely innocent? No, she was not completely innocent. Was she completely guilty? No. What she may have been guilty of is her decision making. Let's move on. According to New York Times, which had a great piece, according to Jason Whitlock, a NBA or football sports analysis on Outkick, or used to be on ESPN, he actually had a great video of this, and this is what we should be teaching young women. I feel like LeBron James, there have been several celebrities that have approached this in a I think a partisan or a biased way. I'm approaching this from a non-biased way and just telling her story and what we should learn from this. And I believe the mistake she has made has been something that has caught up to her. Okay, in New York Times it writes, in Louisville, demonstrators have led nightly protests downtown where most government buildings and many businesses are now boarded up. As outrage mounted, the city fired one of the officers, pushed out the police chief, and passed Breonna's law banning no-knock warrants, which allowed the police to burst into people's homes without warning. Protesters say this is not enough. Let's hold it right there. Let's tackle that. A no-knock warrant was issued. It takes really time, and you got to be really detailed and precise in your method to get a no-knock warrant. Was the no-knock warrant used? As we go down in the article, you'll find out that no, it's no-knock warrant was not used. Let's move on. Nearly 6 months after Miss Taylor's killing, the story of what happened that night and what came before and after remains largely unknown. All that was told about this story was that Breonna was sleeping in bed, they busted into her apartment and shot, boom, she died right there on the spot. That's not what happened. Let's move on to the next part of the article. But a clearer picture of Miss Taylor's death and life, of the person behind the cause, emerged from dozens of interviews with public officials and people who knew her, as well as a review of over 1,500 pages of police records, including evidence logs, transcript of jailhouse recordings, and surveillance photos. The Louisville Metro Police Department, citing a pending investigation, declined to answer simple questions about the case or make anyone available for interviews. Okay. Now, the police, they screwed this up. They botched the whole raid. Breonna and her boyfriend that was in her apartment did not do things the right way either. Okay? Let's move on. Okay? The daughter of a teenage mother and a man who has been incarcerated since she was a child, Miss Taylor attended college, trained as an EMT, and hoped to become a nurse one day. But along the way, she developed a years-long relationship with a twice-convicted drug dealer, whose trail led the police to her door that fateful night. What you did in the past, regardless of what she is doing in the present and trying to change, can and will haunt you. What she did, who she dealt with, okay, can make or break you into the future. What goes around eventually comes back around. Does that mean that she needed to die? No. But when you deal with a drug dealer and you're dating a drug dealer, that is in a list of things that can go wrong. You could die. You could end up in jail. Because people will associate you by whom you hang with. Let's move on. Sloppy surveillance outside her apartment in the hours before the raid failed to detect Mr. Walker, aka Breonna's current boyfriend. So it failed to detect him. So the officers expected to find an unarmed woman alone. Okay, a failure to follow their own rules of engagement and lack of routine safeguards, like stationing an ambulance outside, compounding the risk that night. Okay. While the department had gotten court approval for a no-knock, they got an approval for a no-knock entry, which I felt, okay, screw what the right and the left wing media thinks about this. I felt they should have just done the no-knock. Okay? Now, while they had approval for this entry to search for the evidence of drugs and cash from drug trafficking, the orders were changed before the raid to knock and announce, which means that the police had to go to her door, knock and announce themselves. Okay, let's move on. The officers have said that they did. Mr. Walker, who is Breonna's current boyfriend, says he did not hear anything. In interviews with nearly dozens of neighbors, only one person said he heard the officers announce and shouted "police" a single time. So I don't know if what time of night this was, but maybe this person was just up and heard the police, but Mr. Walker, who's in the apartment, did not. Let's move on. Miss Taylor had been focused on her future with Mr. Walker, okay, her current boyfriend. She's trying to change her life. She went to school for EMT. She's trying to become a nurse. Those are true. Those are facts, okay? But her history with 30-year-old Jamarcus Glover, who was her on and off boyfriend, who had spent years in prison, that was hard to escape. Even after she cut ties with him month before the raid, when the officers rammed the door of the apartment, Mr. Walker later explained he fired, okay? Breonna Taylor's now boyfriend says that he feared that when the door broke in, that it was her ex-boyfriend, Jamarcus, forcing his way into their apartment. So he fired the shot. People was kind of going back and forth as to who fired first. Was it the police or was it Breonna? But people was unaware that no, Breonna had a boyfriend inside the apartment. He shot thinking, according to New York Times, thinking that it was her ex-boyfriend, not the police. So he shot. Police fired back. There was a third policeman who went to the side of the window, shot indiscriminately into the house, and he was fired. He's fired. Like, he does that police did some dumb-ish. Okay? Let's move on. Although Miss Taylor, Breonnataylor had no criminal record and was never the target of an inquiry. Mr. Glover's, Jamarcus Glover, her drug dealing boyfriend, frequent run-ins with the police entangled her into this lifestyle. She had been interviewed in a murder inquiry and paid or arranged bail for him and his associates. In other reportings, a car that she rented for her drug dealing boyfriend was rented and given to the drug dealing boyfriend. One of his associates who went to take care of a job was shot dead in that vehicle. That vehicle was rented in the name of Breonnataylor. She was interviewed about that death. Okay. Now let me continue. When Mr. Glover called from jail after an early arrest in January, she told him that his brushes with the law worried her. She was worried about this lifestyle. She knew that somehow, some way, this lifestyle was going to catch up to her, according to a recording. Each time she's saying, "I love you," before hanging up. A GPS tracker the police placed on his car later showed him making regular trips to her apartment complex, and surveillance photos showed her outside a drug house. So she knew what was going on. She may not have been into the drug game like her ex-boyfriend, but she knew what was going on, and she was bailing him out and holding his money. In a series of calls after her death, Mr. Glover tried to make bail. In a series of calls after her death, Mr. Glover tried to make bail. He told another woman that he had left about $14,000 with Miss Taylor, or Bree been having all my money, quote unquote, Mr. Glover, he claimed. The same afternoon, he also told an associate he had left money with Miss Taylor's home. Mr. Aguiar, the lawyer for her family, said that no drugs or cash were found at her apartment after the raid. But his was not being told that after this whole botch raid and Breonnataylor getting killed, according to Thomas B. Wine, the Jefferson County prosecutor, countered and said that the search was called off once the shooting occurred. This is from a nonpartisan perspective, because what's happening here is you are now sending a signal or putting a picture in the minds of little girls or young 22, 23, 24-year-olds, 28-year-olds who are trying to change their life. Like, you could be sleeping in bed and you could get shot. No. Do not get involved with drug dealing boyfriends. Do not get involved in this type of lifestyle. It's unfortunate with Breonnataylor. May she rest in peace. May her family receive peace and closure from this. But this is not a story of police just going into some random apartment and then shooting and killing a young black woman. No. There were 4 raids that happened that night. Only one house had shooting and death. That was Breonnataylor's house. That was the only house that decided to not do a no-knock warrant. To not do it. They knocked and announced. The other 3 that were done that same time, that same night, no one got shot. Everybody was arrested. They're not really letting me know the colors of the other people, but I'm assuming they were black. They didn't get shot. They didn't get killed. Breonna Taylor's house was the only one. And it's because her boyfriend, according to New York Times, says that he thought it was her drug-dealing ex-boyfriend, which is the reason why he shot. And the police, which they could claim in court as self-defense, they shot back. And then Breonna Taylor was a victim of a crossfire. So Breonna Taylor is also a victim of her past decisions. We gotta teach our young women, this is what we gotta teach. Be careful of your associates. Be careful who you date. Be careful of the lifestyle you choose to get into. Even if you're not deep into it. Her boyfriend, DeMarcus Glover, entangled her inside of his world. She now became involved. Therefore, if you are involved, police going to need to come and question you. That's going to happen. And unfortunately, she ended up dying because of her past. The past can come back to haunt you. That's the only thing I believe she's a victim of. Her past coming to haunt her. She's not a victim of a racial or a racial attack from the police. That's not what it's about. Okay? So we need to put the blame also on DeMarcus, who was involved in drug dealing. We also should put the blame on Breonna for her past. Yes, she was changing, but at some point, sometimes it's too late. Sometimes it's too late. It sucks, but it happens. You know, we also have to put blame on the police, as they didn't know that her boyfriend was in there. They should have had planned this thing better. My thing is, they banned the no knock, but the other 3, no one died. I don't think they should ban the no knock. I don't know what happened. Why did they change from no knock to like knock and announce? I don't know what happened. I'm sorry that this video is long. Hopefully it gives you a full vision as to the full story of Breonna Taylor. She was just not a victim of being black, young, a woman, in bed, sleeping, innocent. No. She was involved, and as a result of her past dealings with her ex-boyfriend being a drug dealer, and her being involved in bailing him out, surveillance, thousands of pictures and footage of her, I guess, exchanging money or whatever it is, you know, was documented. So she's a victim of those decisions. Okay? Again, she did not need to die, but this was not no racial attack. That's all people gotta know. Why can't we speak like this? Why does it always have to be, oh, these cops know that she's black and then they shot? Why? Why does it have to be that? That cop was fired immediately. Was it his bullet that killed Breonna, the cop, the 3rd cop from the window? Hey, if it was, that's a separate case. He should be in jail. as those. Look, there might be protests because I don't think that they're going to do, like, those cops. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I believe those cops, they're gonna get away. They're gonna get away because you guys say that they came in and shot Miss Taylor while she was sleeping. No, they actually they could get off on self-defense. Be prepared for this. They could get off on self-defense. Can you blame the court system? Come on. Let's have an honest conversation about this. Okay? That's all I've got. I've got no more. This is pure, unbiased reporting and perspective from my part. Okay? And if you're not offended, you're not listening. This is the most offensive podcast ever. I'm Slimmy V. God bless, stress less, and let Yahweh give you rest. Peace. I'm out.